Hello everybody, lots of updates today. If these kinds of videos where I just basically talk for 15 minutes are not your thing, I completely get it. Come back next week and I should be vlogging in Italy, which I imagine will be a little bit more exciting than this. But this video is sponsored by Squarespace, so if you need an online store, a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. Right, some updates. This, I'm very pleased to say, is I think the penultimate video that I'm going to be recording in this flat. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll probably know that I despise trying to make videos in this flat because, as you can probably hear, it's very echoey, it's noisy because trains go past, there's too much light because there's windows everywhere, it makes recording video a bit of a nightmare. I don't know why I picked it, but I did. So I'll be very pleased to leave one video after this one. Update number 2 is that behind me, you might be able to see there's a big stack of prints. They're all yours, they're going to the post office straight after this, so in fact you'll already have had them by the time you see this video, most of you, unless you live in a really far-flung place, I think. But thank you so much for those orders. I've got to try and get them to the post office via walking, because the post office is in the middle of the city, can't really drive there, and I don't know how that's going to go. Update number 3, I've got a new phone. I went for a Pixel 2. I have absolutely no idea how to use it. All I know is that the camera is very impressive. But because I have no idea how to use it, today I'll be referring to my trusty notebook to remember things to say. And the final update is that I'm going to be doing a talk in London on the 19th of September. 2 talks actually at Wex Photographic. So one between 3 and 5 p.m. and one between 5 and 7 p.m. And the basis of that talk, I think it's called like vlogging with Panasonic stuff. And I will be talking about vlogging with Panasonic stuff, but I'll also be talking about my photography, all my gear, how I make the vlogs, how I make my photos. So if you're around in London on the 19th of September and you fancy coming to one of those, I'll leave some details in the description. It'd be great to meet you. And that, I think, concludes today's housekeeping. Right, so this video then, basically I've written a list of things that I didn't really know before I became a photographer, and well, it would have been good to know them. I mean, if I'd have just thought about it a little bit, some of them probably would have been quite obvious, but I don't know, maybe you haven't thought of them, so I thought let's crack on, shall we? Thing number 1 I didn't realise about being a photographer is that you take photos for probably less than 20% of the time. So the vast majority of my time I spend emailing and developing briefs and looking at maps and negotiating and working out how to get certain shots and pitching and talking to agencies. Just loads of admin, basically. And I guess it kind of makes sense when you think about it. I mean, you can't just be out all the time taking photos because you'd have no time to deal with clients and collaborate with other people on how to develop certain projects. But yeah, I didn't really think that through. I just kind of thought at the start that I'd be taking photos all the time, and no, certainly not me anyway. Thing number 2 I didn't realise, and it's sort of linked to thing number 1, is that you can charge an awful lot more than you think you can. So typically as a commercial photographer, your main sort of basis of charging is via a day rate. And my assumption when I came into photography, pretty naively to be honest, is that I should take my old salary and just work out a day rate based on that, and that's what I should charge. Didn't really think that through. The reason that doesn't work is because you're only taking photos maximum 20% of the time, so you wouldn't earn much money if you did that. And the second thing is that when you're self-employed, when you're a freelancer, nobody's paying your pension, you've got to pay your taxes out of what you earn, nobody's paying for your healthcare, all that kind of stuff needs thinking about. And if you're self-employed, obviously you already know this, but yeah, that was pretty much news to me when I started. Now, in terms of what you can charge as a day rate as a photographer, it's a bit of a grey area. I mean, at the low end, you can charge £300 a day, whereas at the high end, you can probably get $200,000 a day. Obviously, it all depends on your experience, your reputation, your skill level. I don't charge $200,000 a day, as you probably guessed. Thing number 3, it can be quite a lonely existence being a photographer or a freelancer. So I came to this from basically a normal career. So I was working in big teams, I'd have meetings all the time, I worked with friends basically, would always go out for drinks after work, all that kind of stuff. I had a really, really good social life, and now I work predominantly on my own, and when I do speak to people, usually it's via email or over the phone. Very rarely working face to face with people. Now, obviously that differs for other photographers who are shooting different things. You know, if you're a portrait photographer, for example, naturally you're going to be speaking to people a lot more. But for someone like me, who's shooting in the outdoors, largely landscapes and stuff, there's not really all that often a cause for me to be with other people, and quite often I work better when I'm on my own. But that does mean that potentially your social life suffers a bit. So yeah, that's something to know. Number 4 is that the photographers who make a living from photography are not necessarily the best photographers. And that's because it's not solely down to how good your photos are, it's also down to who sees them. And it's one of the main reasons that you can't spend 100% of your time taking photos, because you need to leave time to market your photos as well. So you need to make sure that they're getting in front of the right art directors, that agencies are seeing them, that they're appearing on blogs, that they're getting places and in front of people who are going to be able to see them and make decisions that they want to hire you or they want to work with you in some way. And that is crucial to getting your bills paid as a photographer, because you can take the best images in the world, and even with all the social media, there are so many photos now that even the best stuff can sometimes get buried. So you need to be actively out there trying to push your work in front of eyeballs who have cash to spend on commercial work, basically. It's all a business. Number 5 is that YouTube, I've found, is by far the best marketing tool based on how much work I've gotten from my YouTube channel. And the reason for that, I think, is this. Have you ever gone into a job or a job interview and thought the only reason you're in that interview is because they quite like you and they want to give you the job, but they just want to check that you're not green or an alien or just a bit crazy? I think YouTube acts quite well for that. So I think quite often people have seen some of my photos and thought, right, we want to work with him, we want to find a way to deal with this project together, and then they've gone on my YouTube just to check that I'm not an alien, and they've seen that I'm relatively normal, and on the back of that has given them the confidence to get in touch and hire me. YouTube has been an immense tool for that, and it makes sense, but I didn't really anticipate it, so that's good. Number 6 is Octopus Earnings. I could probably think of a better name for that, but I've heard it described as Octopus Earnings, and that makes sense. I don't know why I did this. Octopuses have 8 legs, not 10 fingers. So as a freelancer and a commercial photographer, you can put all the work in for the outreach and trying to get in front of agencies and potential clients and stuff. But a lot of the time, you can be waiting around for emails about whether they want to work with you, whether they're actually going to sign the contract, whether they actually get the budget in place to work with you, all that kind of stuff. And it can be quite daunting if you've got nothing else going on, kind of waiting for those emails where you get jobs confirmed, unless you have other forms of income that can supplement the quiet periods of commercial work. So, for example, again, YouTube, for me, that provides me with a little bit of AdSense money. The affiliate links in my descriptions, if you click on those, I get a bit of money from those. Every now and again, I do a print sale. That really helps. And also videos like this that are sponsored, that really helps too. Things like that really help keep you afloat when you have a month or 2 months, whatever it might be, where you don't hear back from the jobs that you're hoping to secure. And if you don't have those, you probably have quite a stressful time as a photographer, I think. Number 7, I think we're on number 7, is that you don't need to obey the traditions of the photography industry. So what I mean by that is that quite often I get people emailing me wondering whether they should go to photography school. Now, I find that quite difficult to answer because I personally didn't go to photography school. I know a couple of people that did, but that doesn't really give me a balanced point of view, so it's quite difficult for me to work out what I should say to those. But one of the reasons people say they should go to photography school is that you can get lots of connections and stuff. You can hopefully get in with an established photographer and assist for them for a little while. And that's kind of always been the established way to develop yourself as a photographer and make a name on your own, is that you work with an established photographer, you assist for them, or you assist for multiple photographers, and eventually you end up with enough experience on sets and with lights and all kinds of stuff that you can get hired off your own back. I've never assisted for anybody. As I said, I've never been to photography school, and I don't mean that as any kind of boast or anything. I mean to say that I think the industry has changed quite a lot, because unlike 20 years ago, Everybody has a spotlight now through social media and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And there aren't really the same gatekeepers that there used to be in all these kind of creative industries. So if you're an artist 20 years ago, you would have to get the permission of somebody at an exhibition in order for people to see your work, most likely. Whereas now, you don't have to ask anyone's permission for a chance for people to see your work. You just have to put it out there. So things have changed quite a lot. And basically now we're at a point where I think it's basically a free-for-all. There's no defined route to success, and you just have to put yourself out there and see how it goes. So I'm not saying don't go to photography school. You might decide it's the right option for you, but don't think that that is the only option, because well, it's just not. Number 8 is that you have to be somewhat a people person, despite the fact that I said at number 3 that it's quite a lonely existence. Those two things hold completely true, and they're not mutually exclusive, because even though I don't spend all that much of my time with other people professionally, I'm still talking to other people an awful lot, either negotiating contracts or discussing briefs or working out how we can help each other, all kinds of different stuff. And I think it's tempting to think that you don't need to do a lot of that if you have a job where predominantly you're working on your own. But actually, it's really important in securing work and making potential clients feel comfortable that you're a safe pair of hands with their budget. And finally, number 9 is, well, don't assume that you're being hired because you're a creative genius, as I did. When I first started getting hired, I thought, oh, these people must think, oh, like I'm a creative wizard. I went into meetings and I was like, oh, we need to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. Only to be told, whoa, no, you're going to do this. So my perception was that I was being hired for my ideas, and the reality was that I was being hired because I knew how to use a camera and I knew how to use Photoshop, which was a little bit of a kick in the teeth. And the lesson I took from it is that, yeah, people don't often hire you because of your ideas. Quite often they just want your skills. And if you have a vision for something and you think there's one way that's going to work best for the way you do it, then you need to voice it, you need to fight for it, particularly if you're going to be putting your name to that piece of work. Yeah, that's really important. So don't assume that you're being hired because you're a genius. You're probably not. But if you have ideas, then it's important that you voice those ideas, because if they're better than the ideas that the client already has, then you're adding value and the chances of you being hired again in future increase. And also, it's much more fun working on your own ideas than it is other people's ideas, because otherwise you end up working for yourself but for other people on worse terms than if you weren't working for yourself, because they can just cut you off at any point. Yeah, I hope that wasn't too dire. I didn't mean for it to be downbeat or anything. It was just some stuff that I've learned. It's a shame I didn't have 10 really. If you can think of a 10th, please leave it in the comments. That'd be a nice round number. Anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. As I said at the top of the video, if you need a website, an online store, or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. This is the 4th Squarespace video I've done. In the previous 3, I've talked a little bit about all the things I like about it. I haven't talked about customer service, so in the 2 times that I've needed the customer service while I've had a Squarespace website, just because I didn't read the instructions properly, mainly. The customer service has just been incredible. They respond super quickly, which is really, really helpful when your business relies on your website. They're kind, friendly, helpful, knowledgeable, just very, very good. So if you'd like to test them out, as I said, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. Anyway, that concludes the penultimate video, hopefully, in this echoey, prison-like chamber. Okay, I'm off to the post office.